16-year-old Arya has just survived a grueling 6-month trek across the continent to reach the massive checkpoint gates of the imperial capital, Vireldria. Her journey began 4 years ago in the village of Oakhaven, which had been abandoned to a lethal, rotting sickness. With the soil turned to ash and her mother dying of necrotic decay, Arya had reached the end of her hope. Then, a young man in a dark cloak sprinted past the village borders. Despite his hands trembling heavily from internal physical strain, his face remained entirely calm and unreadable. He collided with Arya, dropped a heavy silver necklace into the dirt, and whispered, "Strong aura," before vanishing into the woods. When Arya pressed that silver pendant to her mother's chest, a massive shockwave of pure mana erupted across the village. It didn't just cure the plague, it instantly grew a towering field of green wheat where there had only been rot. This stranger had saved the village as if it were a passing chore, binding Arya's future to a man who chose her for a reason she didn't yet understand. A few weeks after the miracle, a massive wild boar wandered into those freshly fertile fields, threatening the village's first real harvest in years. Desperate to protect the crops, Arya grabbed a rusted, dull iron sword from the village armory and swung it at the beast in a panic. A blinding crescent of energy erupted from the rusted blade, effortlessly slicing the beast in half and severing 3 huge trees at the forest edge. Looking back at the stranger's trembling hands and his comments on her aura, Arya finally understands. He had used a high-level appraisal skill to look past a dirty, crying child and recognize a world-class talent sleeping in her blood. The artifact was a calculated catalyst. By providing a permanent guardian for her village, he had severed her ties to the dirt so she could finally step forward and hone her raw potential. That night, Arya swore to become the strongest blade in the kingdom so she could finally be worthy of finding him. She spent the next 4 years training until her hands bled, forming a party of the village's most talented girls and clearing high-level dungeons without a single day of rest. This ranking pyramid shows her trajectory, cutting through the lower ranks to reach level 5. In her home country, she sat alone at the top, officially recognized by the king as the sword prodigy. She spent 4 years building her identity and her pride around that title, ignoring every noble suitor to focus entirely on reaching the imperial capital. At the gates of Vireldria, Arya finally presents her level 5 badge to a bored imperial guard, her chest puffed out with pride. Stunned by her beauty, the guard takes a quick look at her badge, then dismissively waves her toward a crowded lane for mid-levels. When Arya repeats her rank, the guard laughs. He explains that in this city, a level 5 is barely qualified to clean the sewers. Here, the rank she spent 4 years bleeding for is the equivalent of a luggage carrier. Brielle, the party's thief, shouts in a rage and reaches for her dagger, forcing Ellen the healer to physically drag her back before she starts a fight with the Imperial Guard. Arya's hands begin to shake as the reality of the power gap sets in. The peak of her entire nation's strength is merely an entry-level requirement in the capital. Clinging to her only lead, Arya asks for the location of Kian Aster, who she still remembers as a level 5 adventurer. The guard's pen snaps in half. Going deathly pale, he takes 3 steps back, his hand instinctively dropping to the hilt of his sword. This updated hierarchy for the capital shows exactly why he's terrified. While level 5 has been relegated to a crowded middle tier, Kian Aster sits in a class of his own at level 8. He is the clan master of the Hidden Origin, known as 1,000 Strings. The guard tells her about the Obsidian Vipers, a syndicate that sent 12 elite assassins into Kian's mansion. Knights found the assassins the next morning, pinned to the floor by an invisible, crushing weight. The terrifying part? Kian never woke up. He left an automated trap running in his sleep. Arya touches the silver pendant under her tunic, her resolve hardening. Her savior isn't just an adventurer. He's a legend who manipulates the city's fate. She decides right then that she will prove she is worthy of his strings. Will Arya bridge the gap and reach her savior? To see what happens when the sword prodigy enters the game of 1,000 Strings, read My Certification Level Keeps Rising, but all I do is laze around. on WebNovel.